The rain had been falling for hours and hours. It was soft and steady, like a quiet drummer playing on the rooftops. Mara Winslow was walking home from work when she first saw the cat. It was huddled right next to the big, smelly trash bins behind her apartment building. The cat was completely soaked and shaking from the cold, a tiny, pure white creature. But it had one special marking, a single black patch over its left eye, like a little permanent bruise that never went away. Mara was going to just walk past. She was tired and wanted to get warm. But then she stopped. Something about the cat's eyes. They were bright yellow, wide open, and so alert they almost looked human, made her feet freeze on the sidewalk. She had no idea that by stopping, by gently picking up the wet, cold animal, wrapping it in her warm scarf and whispering, "You're safe now," she was doing something much bigger. She was opening the door to a huge, scary mystery buried deep beneath her small, quiet town. A mystery that would soon make her question everything she knew about good people, big secrets, and what the word home really means. Mara lived all by herself in a comfortable apartment on Rosemont Street. It was a small, peaceful street where all the houses were in a circle, and nothing, absolutely nothing, ever seemed to happen. It was the kind of street where you felt completely safe. Mara cleaned the cat, fed it, and gave it a soft blanket. She named the cat Whisper because it never made a sound. It didn't purr loudly, and it never ever made a sound that sounded like a meow. It was always silent. The first 3 nights were normal. Whisper slept soundly, curled up tightly at the foot of Mara's bed, a small, warm weight. But by the 4th night, something very strange began. At exactly 2:14 a.m., without fail, Mara would wake up. She didn't know why, but she always woke up at that exact time. She would see Whisper jump down from the bed. The cat would pad quietly, silently to the front door. Then it would just sit there, staring at the door, unmoving, silent, its tail twitching slowly, gently, as if it were waiting for someone important to come home. Mara thought at first that it was just a strange new habit. Maybe the cat missed its old owner, or maybe it just heard a noise outside. She would get up, carry the cat back to bed, and fall back asleep. The night Mara followed, but the ritual happened every single night. Mara started feeling a spooky feeling that Whisper wasn't just waiting, it was watching. Then came the night she couldn't ignore it anymore. It was the 7th night of the ritual. At 2:14 a.m., Whisper didn't just stare at the door. It started to scratch at the wood, a soft, insistent, determined sound. It scratched and scratched until Mara felt like she had to know what was out there. She slipped on her coat, grabbed a flashlight, and slowly opened the door. Whisper didn't run away, it ran out. Mara followed the silent cat into the thick, wet fog. Whisper moved fast, too fast for a lazy house cat. It zipped between parked cars and down narrow, dark alleys until they reached the edge of the old Hollow Creek forest, which lay just beyond the old unused railway line. The huge search for Noah and Elise was long and sad. Many good people, rangers, police, and kind volunteers walked the dark woods every day. They searched the bright, sunny parts of the Appalachian Trail first. They looked under every rock and behind every waterfall. But the trail kept its secret deep inside its green shadows. The wet journal. After weeks of looking, the rangers finally found one small, wet, and sad clue. It was Elise's journal, found near the border of Tennessee. The rain had washed away most of the ink, but the last pages were protected by a plastic bag they used to keep food fresh. The pages showed how happy Elise had been at the start, drawing little pictures of funny birds and tall, pointy trees. But the last 3 entries were written quickly, in a scribbly, scared handwriting. Journal Entry 1. The woods are beautiful, but they feel like they are watching us now. I woke up last night and heard a tiny sound, like a stick breaking very far away. Noah says it was just a deer. I don't think it was a deer. Journal Entry 2. Very rushed. We saw a strange symbol carved into a tree today. It was a triangle with a wavy line through it. Noah took a photo. He said he had seen it before on a map. I felt cold even in the sunshine. Journal Entry 3, the final entry. We're not alone on this trail. Someone's following us at night. I hear heavy footsteps when Noah's asleep. I think they know about the camera. I am very scared." The police in charge, led by Deputy Carl Denton, said Elise was probably just scared because the woods are dark and full of animal sounds. They called it paranoia, worrying too much about things that aren't real. They put the journal in a box and stopped thinking about a person being the cause. Jonas Creed, the man of shadows. But the people who lived in the small towns near the trail told a different, much scarier story. They spoke of a man named Jonas Creed. Jonas Creed was a man who hated people walking on his trail. He was a reclusive ex-hiker, a hiker who had stopped hiking and lived all by himself. He was known to stalk, follow secretly hikers. He sometimes walked up to people and stared at them with angry, stone-cold eyes until they ran away. He had been accused before of threatening hikers, telling them to leave his quiet woods. When the investigators finally drove deep into the forest to find Jonas's small, messy cabin, it was too late. Jonas was gone. His little house was not just empty, it was burned completely to the ground, black and smoking. The fire had been set on purpose to destroy everything inside. The police had lost their first, best lead. Margaret's endless search. 5 years crawled by, slow and heavy. Every summer, Margaret, Elise's mother, came back to the trail. She started walking the path her daughter had taken. She learned to spot the difference between the sound of a falling pine cone and the sound of a person walking. Margaret carried a small bag of special items, Noah's lucky hiking compass and Elise's favorite hair ribbon. She claimed she could feel Elise's presence. Margaret's inner voice. "Elise, my brave girl, are you cold? Are you calling me? I can feel something. It's not peaceful, it's a terrible, heavy sadness, and it's calling me back to the place you went silent." Her endless searching kept the story alive. Even when the police had stopped trying, the terrible discovery in 2021 changed everything. Noah and Elise were found hanging in the Shenandoah section of the trail. The police confirmed it was a double murder. The 5 searches. But the biggest puzzle of all was this. The bodies had stayed hanging on the sycamore tree for 6 whole years without being found. The FBI agent, Mr. Cooper, asked Deputy Carl Denton, "We have records here showing that this exact area, the woods around the old Sycamore Creek tributary, was searched 5 different times between 2015 and 2017. Why didn't anyone see the bodies hanging in the tree?" Deputy Denton, who was the boss of the search teams, just rubbed his tired face. "The forest is dense, Agent. It's hard to see even 10 feet in front of you. Plus, the sycamore tree is very tall, and the area is a sinkhole waiting to happen. We stayed near the main path." But the FBI agent, Mr. Cooper, knew that a missing person search team is trained to walk in a straight line, shoulder to shoulder, leaving no space in between. 5 times was too many for 2 large bodies to be completely missed. This meant that the bodies were either hidden very well or, even worse, that someone on the inside was lying. Ranger Holton's heavy guilt. A few weeks later, a good man came forward. He was a retired ranger named Edgar Holton. He was old and his eyes were full of shame. He couldn't live with his secret anymore. Holton went to the police station and asked to speak to the new, honest detective, Detective Hayes. Holton told them his terrible memory from 6 years ago. He was working at a trail checkpoint when he saw Noah and Elise. Holton's flashback. They looked upset. Noah was holding his expensive camera like a shield. He was talking to a scruffy man with a big beard, Jonas Creed. Jonas was pointing his finger at Noah's camera lens and shouting about pictures and private property. Noah was shouting back, "I saw what you did. It's illegal." Holton knew Jonas Creed was trouble, so he reported the argument to his boss right away, Deputy Carl Denton. "Holton, I wrote a full report about the argument and gave it to Deputy Denton the next day. I even gave him the date and time. But Denton told me, that hiker is just a crazy local. The investigation has already found a suspect. Don't worry about it, Ranger. Burn that paper." The suspect Denton was talking about was the idea that Noah and Elise just got lost or were attacked by an animal. Holton felt a heavy wave of guilt. He realized Denton had told him to keep quiet because Denton was trying to bury the only real clue they had. The little argument that Ranger Holton reported about Noah's camera and Jonas's shouting gave Detective Hayes the final, most important clue. The fight wasn't about property, It was about a photo of a crime. Hunting for hidden secrets. Detective Hayes realized that Jonas Creed and his secret partner were using the deep, quiet woods for something illegal. They were running an illegal poaching ring, catching, killing, and selling very rare and protected wildlife like bears and special deer for big money. She knew Jonas had been scared of Noah's camera because Noah might have accidentally captured a picture of their terrible secret. Detective Hayes and her team went back to the old black, burned remains of Jonas Creed's cabin. They searched the black ashes again, using special tools to find tiny pieces of metal. The terrifying album. They found a heavy, rusted metal lockbox buried deep under the ashes, hidden right beneath where the old stove used to sit. The fire hadn't been hot enough to melt the box. Inside the lockbox were dozens of old Polaroid photos. The pictures were like a terrifying album of secrets. Some showed hikers smiling, unaware of the danger. Some showed animals caught in cruel, ugly metal traps. Some showed hikers who looked scared and terrified. And then Detective Hayes found the crucial pictures. A bright picture of Noah and Elise. Noah looked sad and worried. Elise looked completely terrified. A picture taken by Noah's camera. It showed Jonas Creed standing next to a dead deer that was illegally caught in a trap. The picture was slightly blurry, but it clearly showed Jonas's face and the dead animal. This was the photo Noah had been arguing about. This evidence proved the motive. Noah and Elise were murdered to keep a terrible secret about poaching quiet. The police realized that Jonas and his secret partner were still selling the illegal animals while everyone was searching for Noah and Elise. They had used the tragedy to hide their other terrible crime. The entire trail was much scarier than anyone thought. Suddenly, loud footsteps broke the silence of the rain in the forest. Detective Grant's voice cut through the dark. It was quiet, but dangerously cold. "Mara, step away from that necklace." Mara spun around. Detective Grant was standing right behind her. His face was no longer kind or tired. It was hard, and his gun was drawn and pointed right at her. "Date." Grant, quietly, tragically. "Lila found out about me. She wasn't supposed to. She found out what I do. And now you found her, and the truth too. The terrible truth." Grant explained everything in a low, rushed voice. He had been using his police badge to prey on vulnerable women in the town. Women who had no family or friends to look out for them. He would pretend to investigate their lives, find their secrets, and then hurt them. Lila Trent was one of his victims. She worked at the diner, and Grant saw her alone every night. She started to realize he wasn't just investigating, he was watching her. She found a file on his home computer that connected him to several other missing women, dead on Grant. "She tried to expose me. She was going to go to the police chief. I couldn't let her. I stopped her, and I buried her in the woods I've patrolled for 15 years. He had been watching Mara from the start. He visited her apartment so often because he was making sure she didn't find the truth. Whisper's final act. Just as Grant stepped forward, his eyes focused on the necklace in Mara's hand, ready to grab her and silence her forever. Whisper reacted. The little white cat, covered in the rain, arched its back high and started hissing violently, the loudest sound Mara had ever heard it make. Grant took one more step towards Mara, and the soft, wet ground beneath him gave way with a terrible, rushing sound. The same loose, disturbed ground near the abandoned cabin, the ground that covered old secrets, had become a sinkhole. It had been slowly rotting for years. The detective who buried Lila Trent was suddenly swallowed whole by the earth. His gun flew into the dark mud. He screamed, and then there was silence. The police recovered Detective Grant's body 2 days later. The heavy rain had turned the sinkhole into a muddy, deep pit. Detective Hayes, the sharp, honest detective from a nearby town, was brought in to investigate the death of a police officer. Inside Grant's home, they found a small, heavy box hidden in his locked basement safe. Inside the box were terrible secrets, jewelry, IDs, and dozens of Polaroid photos of several missing women, all connected to cold cases he claimed to have investigated. The mystery was solved. The crooked detective was the killer. Ramirez tells all Detective Hayes brought in Officer Ramirez. He was still shaking, but now he wasn't afraid of Grant anymore. He was just terrified of the truth. Ramirez confessed that he knew Grant was doing bad things. Grant forced him to change the timestamp on the Lila Trent file from 2 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. to match Grant's own fake alibi. Ramirez also confessed that he sometimes went to Mara's apartment. He was the one who was unlocking her front door at night. He wasn't trying to hurt her. He was trying to leave her tiny anonymous warnings, hoping she would leave town. He was too scared to tell the whole truth. So he left the door unlocked as a sign. "You are not safe here." Mara realized the muddy paw print on the windowsill was probably Ramirez climbing up the fire escape to unlock the door. And the locked door was Grant coming to check if his alibi was still safe. The town was shocked. The detective they trusted was a monster. A week after the entire case was officially closed, Mara woke up in the quiet dawn. She felt a small, familiar weight on her chest. Whisper was sitting on her, its yellow eyes soft now, tired and peaceful. For the first time since she found him, the silent cat made a sound. A small, broken, but perfect meow. It was the sound of a spirit finally resting. Then Whisper jumped down, padded quietly to the door, and slipped out into the misty dawn. Mara watched him go. She never saw him again. The endless cycle. Months later, Mara was starting her life over. She had become close friends with Laura Doyle, Lila's mother, who had been completely broken by the initial search. Mara went to the cemetery and placed a bunch of fresh, bright flowers at Lila Trent's restored, beautiful grave. The town had paid to make it a perfect place. Next to the headstone, Mara noticed something small and white sleeping soundly in the warm morning grass. It was a kitten, pure white, with a faint, tiny black patch just starting to form over its left eye. When Mara blinked, it was gone. She smiled gently through her tears. She knew that some stories never truly end. They just find new, quiet ways to be told. And some spirits, like Lila's love or the cat's promise of justice, never rest until the truth has been found and their memory is kept safe.